I never expected my 17th birthday to be the night I lost my family. The cold air cut through my jacket as I stood outside my house, no, not my house anymore, clutching the handle of my worn-out suitcase. The snow on the front porch was thin, but my fingers were already numb. The only warmth came from the lights spilling out of the windows, the laughter of my brother and sister filtering through the cracks of the door. They were celebrating, but not for me, not for my birthday. I had thought, just for a second, that maybe this year would be different, that maybe just once I wouldn't be the forgotten child, the extra one, the one who only existed when there were chores to do or someone needed a scapegoat. I had spent years watching Ethan and Isabella get special treatment. Ethan, the golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. Isabella, the perfect daughter, the one who deserved new dresses, summer vacations, and actual birthday parties. Me, I got hand-me-down clothes and expectations. Still, I had hoped. Like an idiot, I had hoped. I had sat at the dinner table that night, staring at my parents as they laughed, waiting for them to acknowledge me, to remember me. I had thought maybe this time they would look at me and say, "Happy birthday, Sophia." Maybe there'd be a cake, nothing fancy, just something small, maybe a card, even one of those cheap ones from the grocery store. Maybe, God, maybe, they would just see me. Instead, they toasted Isabella's acceptance into a study abroad program. I sat there, fork frozen in my hand, as my mom smiled across the table, her voice all warm and proud. "We're so happy for you, sweetie. You're going to have the most incredible experience." My dad nodded approvingly. "This is a big opportunity. You're going places." I wasn't. I was staying right here, stuck in the background of someone else's life. No one noticed me. No one even looked at me. I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they were waiting until later. So I tried. I forced my voice steady. "Mom, Dad." My mother barely glanced at me. "What?" I hesitated. I could already feel the weight of annoyance in her tone, like I was interrupting something more important. I pushed through anyway. My voice faltered, but I forced the words out. "It's my birthday today." The silence that followed was the loudest thing I had ever heard. My dad blinked, my mom frowned slightly, like I had just reminded her of something she didn't want to think about. Then she sighed. "Oh, Sophia, really?" She shook her head, already picking up her wine glass. "You're 17. You don't need a big fuss over a birthday anymore." I felt something in my chest crack. No big fuss, no acknowledgement at all, just nothing. Isabella rolled her eyes and went back to scrolling through her phone. Ethan barely looked up from his plate, like I wasn't even there. The air felt thick, suffocating. I don't know what made me say it. Maybe it was all the years of being ignored, being treated like a burden. Maybe it was the fact that I had finally had enough, or maybe it was because, for once, I just wanted to be seen. So I said it. I came out. I'm gay. My voice didn't shake. It was the first time in my life I had ever said those words out loud, and for a second, there was a sense of relief. Like I had just taken something that had been locked up inside me for years and let it breathe. Then I saw my mother's face. She went rigid, her expression twisting into something that wasn't quite shock, but something worse. Disappointment. My father's fork clattered onto his plate. His jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists on the table. The air shifted, changed. This wasn't silence anymore. This was a wall going up between us permanently. No one spoke. Then my mom sighed again, like she was tired of me, like I had done something exhausting. "Jesus, Sophia," she muttered, rubbing her temples. "This is the last thing we need right now, the last thing they needed, like I had just thrown an inconvenience into their perfect little evening. Like I was an inconvenience." I couldn't breathe. My fingers curled around the edge of the table, gripping it so tightly my knuckles went white. "That's all you have to say?" My dad exhaled sharply through his nose. He didn't even look at me. "You're not living in this house if you think you can just do whatever you want." His voice was sharp, controlled, like he had already made up his mind. It took me a second to process what he meant. Then my stomach dropped. "You're kicking me out?" My mother stood up from the table and walked away, like this conversation wasn't even worth her time. My father pushed his chair back, his face unreadable. "You want to live like that, Sophia? Fine, but you don't do it under my roof." I felt like I had been punched in the chest. "Are you serious?" My voice rose, desperate, disbelieving. But my mother was already heading upstairs. Pack your things, she said over her shoulder, like she was telling me to take out the trash. Something inside me cracked wide open. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur. I walked upstairs in a daze, stuffing clothes into a suitcase. Not that I had much to pack, just old sweaters, worn-out jeans, things that weren't good enough for Isabella or Ethan to take. My hands shook as I zipped the bag. This was happening. This was real. By the time I came downstairs, my mother was holding my coat out to me, expression blank. My father stood by the door, arms crossed. My sister was back on her phone. My brother didn't even glance up, not a single goodbye. Not a single look of regret, just indifference, like I had never belonged there in the first place. My mother shoved my coat at me. Your grandmother will take you in. That was it. That was all she said. I stepped out onto the porch, the wind biting at my face. I could hear the sound of glasses clinking, laughter from inside. They had moved on already. I stood there for a long moment, suitcase in hand, staring at the house I had spent my entire life in. Then, finally, I turned away and walked into the night. I didn't cry, not when I left, not when I dragged my suitcase down the icy sidewalk, my breath fogging up in the freezing air, not when my grandmother opened her front door, her face etched with both sadness and something else, resignation, like she'd been expecting this all along. She didn't ask questions, she just stepped aside, letting me in, wrapping me in a thick blanket as if that would somehow fix the damage. I didn't cry that night. I lay awake in the guest room staring at the ceiling, my chest hollow. This was real. I wasn't going to wake up and find out it was some twisted nightmare. I was really gone. No home, no family, no one who gave a damn. And yet, deep down under all the shock and numbness, there was something else growing, a slow, burning rage. Looking back, it wasn't just about that night. It was never just one moment. I should have seen it coming years ago. My whole life, I had been treated like I was less than. I wasn't just the youngest. I was the afterthought. Ethan got a car at 16. I got a bus pass. Isabella got vacations, shopping sprees, the best of everything. I got her leftovers. Ethan didn't have to lift a damn finger around the house. Isabella barely had to do chores, but me? I was the one scrubbing floors, folding laundry, doing dishes. I was never enough, never important, never worthy of the same love, the same attention, and I had spent 17 years trying to earn it like a fool. It took exactly 3 days before my mother's first text came through. Mom, Sophia, you need to come back this weekend. Your brother has a job interview, and I need you to watch Noah. Not how are you, not we miss you, just a command, like nothing had changed, like I was still their unpaid maid, their disposable worker. I stared at the screen for a long moment. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could have said no. I could have ignored it. Instead, I did something better. I left her on read. The texts didn't stop. Mom, Sophia, answer me. Mom, don't be selfish. You know we need help. Dad, family helps family. You need to step up. That one made me laugh. Step up? Step up for the same people who threw me out into the cold like garbage? I didn't reply. At first they thought I was just being difficult, that I'd come crawling back, desperate to be useful again. But then reality hit them hard. There was no one to clean up after Ethan anymore. No one to iron Isabella's favorite blouse. No one to watch Noah when Mom and Dad wanted a night off. And suddenly, the golden children, the ones who never had to lift a damn finger, had to figure things out for themselves. I heard it all through my grandmother. She still called my mother sometimes, still believed in second chances. But she let things slip. Your mother's stressed. Good. Ethan is furious. He had to make his own breakfast the other day. Fantastic. Isabella says the house is a mess. Perfect. I didn't gloat. Not outwardly, but inside. I smiled. They had kicked me out, convinced they were better off without me. Now they were drowning without the daughter they never even wanted. I didn't go back. I didn't beg. I didn't break. Instead, I started thinking. I had spent years taking care of a family that never took care of me, doing things for people who never gave a second thought about me. So what if, for once, I did something for myself? I got a part-time job at a coffee shop down the street. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first paycheck I ever held in my hands, that wasn't snatched away, that wasn't counted by someone else before I even saw it. I started saving, started thinking ahead. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trapped inside their world. I wasn't just waiting for the next insult, the next dismissal, the next time they'd pretend I didn't exist until they needed me. I was free. Weeks passed, then months. I ignored their messages. They never apologized. Not once. They just wanted their servant back. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. Mom, Sophia, we need to talk. I almost ignored it. Then another text popped up. Your father lost his job. Things are tight. You need to stop being childish and come home. I actually laughed out loud. Childish? The same people who abandoned me were now expecting me to come save them? That was when I realized something. They had never wanted me. Not really. They had only ever wanted what I could do for them. And now that I was gone, their perfect, comfortable life was falling apart. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. I was done. I typed slowly, deliberately. Me, I'm not your daughter when it's inconvenient. You made that clear. Take care. Then I blocked her number. Blocked my father's, blocked Ethan's and Isabella's, just in case. And just like that, I erased them the way they had erased me. I focused on my future. The job at the coffee shop turned into a management position. Management turned into saving money. Saving money turned into a business idea. It took years. Years of working, pushing myself, refusing to give in to the bitterness, years of proving to myself that I could be more than what they had forced me to be. And then finally, at 22, I opened my own store. Not just any store, a clothing boutique, one that specialized in high-end repurposed fashion, because I knew exactly what it felt like to grow up wearing other people's discarded things. It was mine, every inch of it, and for the first time in my life, I didn't just exist, I thrived. I didn't hear from them for 5 years, not until one cold December afternoon when a familiar face walked into my boutique, my mother. She looked older, more tired, more desperate. I let her stand there for a moment, looking around, taking in the polished floors, the elegant displays, the business I had built without them. Then she finally looked at me. Sophia, she said, her voice almost hopeful. I smiled. Not cruel, not angry, just done. Can I help you find something? She blinked, confused. What? This is a business, isn't it? I said smoothly. You're a customer, so can I help you with anything? The moment she realized what I was saying, it was worth everything. My mother blinked at me, her mouth slightly open like she couldn't quite process what I had just said. Can I help you find something? Her lips parted, then pressed together in a thin line. I could see the way her jaw tightened, the way her fingers twitched against her purse strap. She wasn't used to this, being treated like a stranger, like she wasn't in control, and that's exactly what she was now, a stranger. I let the silence stretch between us, let her squirm under the weight of it. Then, just when I thought she might actually turn and walk away, she cleared her throat and straightened her shoulders. Sophia, I didn't expect to find you here, liar. Of course she expected to find me here. She had come looking for me, and I knew exactly why. She needed something. She always did. I had heard whispers, small pieces of information trickling in from mutual acquaintances, old neighbors, even my grandmother. My father had lost his job, a downsizing issue, according to him. Ethan, the golden boy, had been fired from 2 different companies for poor work ethic. Isabella had married well, but the marriage was crumbling fast. The house, the same house they had thrown me out of, was under financial strain, and now, after all these years, my mother had finally come to find me, but not because she regretted what she had done. No, she was here because she thought she could still manipulate me, because she thought she could win. I could see it in the way she held herself, in the way she tilted her chin up just slightly, as if she still believed she had some kind of authority over me. This place, it's nice, she said, glancing around, her tone carefully neutral. I didn't reply. I just let her sit in the awkward silence. She shifted, obviously uncomfortable. I didn't know you had a store. I smiled, slow and deliberate. Of course you didn't. Her lips pressed together again. She didn't like this. Didn't like being on the outside looking in. She exhaled sharply as if shaking off her own irritation. Then, in a voice just a little too casual, she said, Your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time to put the past behind us. I nearly laughed. Time to put the past behind us? She said it like it was just some minor family disagreement, like they hadn't kicked me out into the cold and erased me from their lives, like I hadn't spent years clawing my way out of the hole they left me in. And why would I want to do that? I asked, keeping my voice even. She gave me a look, the same look she used to give me when I was a kid, when she wanted me to just go along with whatever she said. Because, Sophia, we're family. Family, that word used to hurt. It used to make something inside me curl up and wither because it was something I had never really belonged to, not in their eyes. But now Now it meant nothing. I leaned against the counter, tilting my head slightly. Family? I echoed. That's interesting, because I seem to remember my family throwing me out on my 17th birthday like I was trash. Her jaw clenched. No, really, I interrupted, keeping my voice light, almost amused. It's funny how you suddenly care now after all these years, after ignoring my calls, after blocking my number, after pretending I didn't exist. But now, oh, now we're family again. She exhaled sharply, clearly frustrated. It was a difficult time, you know that. We were trying to do what was best for you. I actually laughed. Laughed? Best for me, I repeated, shaking my head. Throwing me out with nowhere to go was best for me? Cutting me off, pretending I didn't exist? Was that for my benefit? She hated that I wasn't playing along, hated that I wasn't that scared, obedient daughter anymore. We were upset, she tried, her voice tight. You blindsided us, Sophia. You didn't even give us time to process. Process what? I snapped. That I'm gay? That I wasn't the perfect little mold you wanted me to be? Face it, Mom. You didn't want time to process. You wanted an excuse to get rid of me. She flinched, her face twisting into something almost ugly. Because she knew I was right, but she wasn't ready to lose. Not yet. You've always been dramatic, she said, her voice dropping into that familiar patronizing tone she used to use when I was a child. Like I was just overreacting, like everything they had done to me was my fault. You always played the victim, Sophia, she continued, tilting her head. And I see that hasn't changed. There it was, the real her, not the fake concerned mother act she had been playing. Not the forced guilt, the real her, the woman who had never cared, who had only ever seen me as an inconvenience. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I straightened, adjusting the sleeve of my blazer, my movements deliberate, controlled. Then I looked her dead in the eye and smiled. You know what, Mom, I said, my voice cold and steady. You're right, I have changed. She blinked like she wasn't sure where I was going with this. I used to want your approval, I continued. I used to think if I tried hard enough, if I did everything right, maybe you'd finally love me like you love Ethan, or Isabella. But I finally realized something. I took a slow step closer, watching her stiffen. I don't need you anymore, she paled. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval, and I sure as hell don't need your fake manipulative attempts at reconciliation now that your life is falling apart. Her mouth opened, but I didn't give her the chance. So, let me make this easy for you, Mom. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice just enough to twist the knife. You lost me years ago, and you're never getting me back. Then I turned my back on her, and this time I was the one who walked away. I didn't look back, not when I heard my mother exhale sharply behind me, not when I caught the faint tremor in her voice as she said my name one last time. No, I had spent 17 years looking back, waiting, hoping, desperately clinging to the idea that one day they would see me, that one day they'd love me the way they loved my siblings. That day never came, and now I was done, but they were just getting started on their downfall. I hadn't needed to do anything to ruin them. They had already done that themselves. Ethan was unemployable, a spoiled, entitled brat who had spent his whole life coasting on our parents' favoritism. But favoritism didn't pay rent, it didn't get you promotions, and now, after bouncing between jobs, showing up late, refusing to take orders from his bosses, he had finally hit rock bottom. Isabella had thought she had won at life. She had married rich, just like Mom always encouraged her to do. Find a man who can take care of you, sweetie. That's the smart way to live. Except that man, he left her. Apparently he didn't find a spoiled, self-absorbed wife as appealing as she thought he would. And my parents, they had been sinking for years, drowning in the very entitlement they had raised my siblings with. And now they were desperate. And desperate people, they made mistakes. It was a week after my mother had walked into my boutique, a week of silence. She hadn't come back, she hadn't called. I wasn't surprised. She wasn't used to being dismissed. She was used to people bending, folding, giving in to whatever she demanded, and when they didn't, she did what she always did. She schemed. And I knew exactly what was coming next. So when the call came, I was ready. My phone buzzed, Dad's number. I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my voice cool. Dad? Sophia. His voice was stiff, like he hated having to do this. We should talk. I waited. He cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. Look, I know things have been difficult. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made, like kicking your teenage daughter out into the cold, like pretending she didn't exist for 5 years, like showing up only when you needed something. And I prompted, keeping my voice carefully neutral. He sighed as if this was exhausting for him. Your mother and I, we don't want this tension between us anymore. We miss you. We want to put the past behind us. I almost laughed. He didn't miss me. He missed what I could do for them. That's interesting, I said, tilting my head even though he couldn't see me. You miss me now, but not 5 years ago? Not when you told me I wasn't part of this family anymore? There was a pause. Then his voice hardened. Sophia, don't be childish. Family helps each other. That's how this works. And there it was. The demand hidden behind fake concern. They weren't apologizing. They weren't acknowledging anything. They were expecting me to fold. Because in their eyes, I was still that same weak girl, desperate for their approval. I smiled. Of course, Dad, you're right, he exhaled, clearly relieved. Good. Now, we were thinking, actually, I interrupted smoothly, why don't we meet in person, talk this through properly? I could almost hear him smirking, thinking he had won. That sounds like a great idea. Oh, it would be, just not for them. I picked the restaurant carefully, somewhere public, somewhere upscale, the kind of place my parents used to parade around in when they still had money to burn. They showed up together, dressed like they were still important, still powerful. They weren't, and I was about to make that very, very clear. Sophia, sweetheart, my mother greeted, smiling like she actually meant it. You look wonderful. I didn't bother returning the compliment. We sat. The waiter came, took our orders, my parents exchanged a glance. Then my father leaned in slightly, adopting his serious but fatherly voice. Sophia, we need your help. I almost laughed. Oh, I said, raising an eyebrow. My mother sighed dramatically. We're going through a rough time. Your father's job, the house, we're trying to keep everything afloat, but it's been difficult. And how exactly does that involve me? I asked, tilting my head. My dad's jaw clenched slightly. He didn't like having to spell it out. You're successful now, he said, as if the words physically hurt him. You have the means to help your family. It's time to put the past behind us and do what's right. What's right, I repeated slowly. They nodded. I smiled. Then I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. I want to make sure I understand this correctly, I said, keeping my voice light. You want me, the daughter you abandoned, to now financially support you. Is that what I'm hearing? My mother flinched at the word abandoned. My father's jaw tightened, but neither of them denied it. I laughed, loud, sharp, cruel. Wow, I said, shaking my head. You two really don't change, do you? They stiffened. I mean, it's impressive, honestly, I continued, my voice light, almost amused. The sheer audacity, the entitlement. After everything you did to me, you really think I'd just hand you money? My mother's face went red. We are still your family, Sophia. No, I said simply, my smile vanishing. You're not. I stood, tossing my napkin onto the table. Let me make this clear so there's no misunderstanding, I said, my voice cold. You are nothing to me. You threw me out like garbage, and now you're reaping the consequences. And you know what? It's exactly what you deserve. My father's face darkened. Sophia, don't do this. Oh, I'm not doing anything, I said smoothly. You did this. You made your choice 5 years ago, and now I'm making mine. I picked up my purse, turning to walk away. Then, just for the hell of it, I glanced back. Oh, and one more thing? I smiled. Enjoy the check. It's on you. And then I left them there, stunned, humiliated, exactly where they belonged, with nothing. They say success is the best revenge. I never used to believe that. For years, I thought revenge meant watching them suffer, hearing them beg, making them feel the same helplessness they forced onto me. But standing here now, 5 years later, in the middle of my empire, I finally understood what true revenge looked like. It wasn't about them at all. It was about me winning. 5 years ago, I walked out of that restaurant and never looked back. I cut them off, blocked their numbers, made it impossible for them to reach me. And in doing so, I set myself free. The boutique I'd started, it had become something much bigger. What was once a small shop tucked into a side street had transformed into a brand, 3 locations, a thriving online store, exclusive designer collaborations. I was no longer just some forgotten daughter, no longer the girl who had been shoved aside like an afterthought. I was somebody. I was untouchable. And now, standing in the middle of my flagship store, an elegant high-end boutique that people fought to get appointments for, I felt nothing but satisfaction. This was mine, every inch of it. And they had nothing. The first time I saw Ethan again, I almost didn't recognize him. He walked into my store on a rainy afternoon, looking hollowed out, desperate, like the golden boy had finally learned what it was like to struggle. I had heard through the grapevine that he had burned through every opportunity handed to him, fired from jobs he thought he was too good for, dumped by a fiancé who had gotten tired of his arrogance and laziness. He had nothing left, and now he was here. I watched as he wandered through the racks of clothing, running his fingers over the expensive fabric like he was touching something he could never afford. When he finally saw me, his eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected me to be here. Or maybe he just hadn't expected me to look successful. Sophia? His voice was careful, uncertain. I tilted my head. Ethan, what a surprise. He gave an awkward chuckle. Yeah, I heard about this place. Thought I'd check it out. Liar. He was testing the waters, seeing if I would welcome him back. I let the silence stretch between us, let him fidget under the weight of it. Then, finally, I smiled. Well, I said smoothly, I'm sure you'll find that our pieces are a bit out of your price range. His face flushed, humiliation flickering behind his eyes. Sophia, come on, he said, lowering his voice. I was thinking maybe we could grab a coffee or something, catch up. Catch up like we were old friends, like he hadn't spent years looking down on me, laughing at me, watching as our parents treated me like garbage and never saying a word. Sorry, I said, my tone light. I don't have time for meaningless conversations, but if you're looking for a job, I hear the cafe across the street is hiring. His mouth opened, closed. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. And God, it was satisfying. 2 months later, it was Isabella. I spotted her at a high-profile fashion event, except she wasn't there as a guest. She was working as an assistant. The same Isabella who used to scoff at me, who used to flip her perfect hair and say things like, "You'll never make it in the real world, Sophia." I watched as she ran around, fetching coffee, holding someone else's coat, keeping her head down while the designers and models barely acknowledged her presence. She had been knocked off her pedestal, and she knew it. When she finally saw me, I expected anger, resentment, but all I saw was shame. Sophia, her voice was small. Isabella, I replied smoothly, taking a slow sip of my champagne. How's life treating you? She swallowed hard. I heard you own your own brand now. I do, I smiled. You should stop by sometime. Oh wait, actually, I don't think you'd pass the client screening process. Her face flushed deep red. For once, she didn't have a single snarky remark. She had fallen too far to pretend she was still above me. And I had risen too high for her to even reach me anymore. I should have expected it. The moment my parents realized both Ethan and Isabella had failed, they did what they always did. They tried to fix things the way they knew best, by manipulating, by guilting, by pretending. And so, one evening, after a long day at work, I found my mother and father waiting for me outside my store. Looking worn down, exhausted, like life had finally caught up with them, I let them stand there in the cold for a full minute before I finally walked up. "What do you want?" My voice was ice. My mother sighed dramatically as if this was exhausting for her. "Sophia, we just want to talk." "Talk?" I repeated. "The last time you talked to me, you threw me out of the house." My father cleared his throat. "That was a long time ago. We were upset. And now?" I tilted my head. "You're what, over it?" My mother's expression tightened. "We're struggling, Sophia. Things haven't been easy. Not my problem." She flinched. "You can't seriously still be holding a grudge," my father snapped, his old temper flashing. "We're family. They had used that word so many times before, when they wanted me to obey, when they wanted me to submit. But now, it meant nothing. "I don't owe you anything," I said simply. "You made your choice 5 years ago, and I made mine." My mother's eyes turned desperate. "We're your parents." "No." I cut her off, voice like steel. "You're just people I used to know." I stepped past them, pushing open the door to my store, and then I turned back one last time. "Don't wait up." And with that, I walked inside, leaving them out in the cold, just like they had left me.